Let's look at number 19 first, and we'll do part of it on the calculator, and then we'll do part of it by hand, because you have to do it that way. And then we'll look at it doing it completely by hand. Okay, so we want to find the zeros of it, so same instructions, which means we got x to the fourth minus 6x to the third plus 13x squared plus 6x minus 14 equal to 0. And our largest power is the fourth, so it means we're going to have four answers. Well, let's first go plug this in the calculator. So I'll press my y equals, clear. Then we got x to the fourth minus 6x to the third plus 13x squared plus 6x minus 14. And I'm going to do a zoom and choose Z standard because I'm zoomed in from the previous problem. Okay, so now let's go through our process. Looks like we have two answers, -1 and 1, but let's verify that. I'll do second trace, choose intersect, enter on first curve, enter on second curve, and we put -1 in for the guess. And it comes back and tells me -1, so that's our first answer. And do second trace, choose intersect, enter on first curve, enter on second curve. Let me put 2 in for the guess just to show you don't have to actually enter the answer to get the answer. And when I push enter on that, see it comes back and tells me 1. Now our answers are where it crosses the x-axis, so we just came up with two of our answers. We got x is equal to -1 and x is equal to +1. Well, we're going to take those and we're going to plug them into synthetic division. I'll do the -1 first. It doesn't matter which one you start with. And we're going to plug it in to our original problem. We're going to take the numbers off of the x to whatever power. And it has to be in standard form. You can't be missing any powers. So again, this is x to the fourth, x to the third, x squared, x, and no x. Well, add. 1 plus nothing's 1. Multiply. You always multiply by a number up in the box, but whatever we just put down here. -1 times 1 is -1. Add. -6 -1 is -7. Multiply. -1 times -7 is a +7. Add. 13 plus 7 is 20. Multiply. You always multiply by a number up in the box, but number you just put down here. -1 times 20 is -20. Add. 6 and -20 gives me -14. And multiply. -1 times -14 is a +14. And -14 plus 14 gives me 0. Now again, you get in the zeros remainder, tells you that's one of your answers. Now, we have no question about that. The calculator told us is one of our answers. And we're now down to x to the third. And we came up with another answer from the calculator, +1, and we're going to plug in that line we just found. So we're going to continue on with this. So we'll add. 1 plus nothing's 1. Multiply. You always multiply by a number in a box, but number you just put down there. 1 times 1 is 1. Add. That gives us -6. Multiply. 1 times -6 is -6. Add. 20 and -6 gives me 14. Multiply. 1 times 14 is 14. And add. -14 plus 14 gives me 0. Again, the fact we get a 0 there means our second answer is a +1. And now we're down to the x squared level. So that's x squared x and our no x, our constant term. So we got x squared minus 6x plus 14 equal to 0. Now this won't factor, so we have to use a quadratic formula. First thing we'll do is identify our a, b, and c. A is the numbers before your x squared, which is 1. B is the number before your x, which is -6. And c is your number at the end, which is 14. And our quadratic formula is -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we got -b, which was -6. So we got -6 plus or minus -6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 14, all over 2a, so 2 times 1. Well, negative gives us a +6, plus or minus. -6 squared is 36, minus 4 times 1 is 4, times 14 gives us 56. Yeah, 56. And 2 times 1 is 2, which gives us 6 plus or minus, and 36 minus 56 is negative 20 over 2. Negative 20 is negative 1 times 2 times 2, that's 4, times 5. Now remember, with a square root, we're looking for a pair of something. So here's a pair of 2's, that's going to come out. And a negative 1 will come out as an I. So we have 6 plus or minus 2i square root of 5 over 2. And we're going to split this up into the real part separate from the imaginary part. So I got 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 5 over 2i, which gives us 3 plus or minus square root of 5i. And that's our other two answers. 3 minus 1 negative 1. Looks like A is our answer on that. Let's go double check that. 19A. And that checks. Now let's do it completely by hand. Calculator is really nice. It helps give us some of our answers. We're going to have x to the fourth minus 6x to the third plus 13x squared plus 6x minus 14 equal to 0. Well, first thing, our number at the very end, our constant term, is our p, and a number before our leading term is the q. So q is 1 and p is 14. And we ignore signs. Now, we write down all products give us 14. Well, there's 1 times 14, and there's 2 times 7. The reason why I said we ignore signs up there is because we go ahead and we put a plus or minus on each one of these. That's to account for any possibility of signs. Now q is 1, so the only thing that gives us 1 is 1 times 1. Now all of our possible answers will be p over q. So I take each one of these values of p and put it over the q. So I got plus or minus 1 over 1, plus or minus 2 over 1, plus or minus 7 over 1, and plus or minus 14 over 1. Which gives us plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 7, and plus or minus 14. Now we're going to take each one of those and plug them into synthetic division against our original problem, and we're looking for a remainder of 0. Remainder of 0 means we found one of our answers. And this started out as x to the fourth, so let's plug in 1. First we add, 1 plus nothing is 1. Multiply, you always multiply by number up in the box, but number you put down here. 1 times 1 is 1. Add, negative 6 and 1 is negative 5. Multiply, 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. Add, 13 minus 5 gives me 8. Multiply, 1 times 8 is 8. Add, 6 plus 8 is 14. And multiply, 1 times 14 is 14. And add, negative 14 plus 14 gives us 0. That 0 means we found one of our answers. So x equals 1 is our first answer. And we're now down to x to the third. Well, we want to keep going. Now I'm going to try 1 again. There's nothing saying it doesn't repeat. And I want to do it on the line I just found. So I got 1, negative 5, 8, and 14. Keep in mind this is x to the third. See, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, and we don't get a 0. So let's go to our next one. I got plus or minus 1, so negative 1 is my next possibility. And again, I'm going to plug it in this line right here. So I got 1, negative 5, 8, and 14. Add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply. Oops. And add, and we get another 0, which means we found our second answer. Now at this point, this was x to the third. This is now down to x squared, x, and no x, our constant term. So we got x squared minus 6x plus 14 equal to 0. Now this doesn't factor, so we have to use the quadratic formula. A is 1, B is negative 6, and C is 14. Quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we'll have a negative 6 plus or minus negative 6 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Negative gives us a positive 6. Negative 6 squared is 36 minus 56. 4 times 1 times 14 over 2. Which gives us 6 plus or minus negative 20 over 2. And 20 is negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 5. So we've got a pair of 2's that's going to come out as a single 2 and a negative 1 come out as an I. So we've got 6 plus or minus 2i square root of 5 over 2. And we'll split this up. Real part separate from imaginary. So I'll put 6 over 2 and the 2 square root of 5 over 2 with an I to the side, which gives us 3 plus or minus square root of 5i. And that's our other two answers.